guys, YIPZ. I'm going to come up with you guys another video today, and this one is going to be a commentary on a single target boss fight. This is going to be guarm single target. I have released this video without any commentary over it, but I feel like commentary would be useful, especially for warlocks that are either progressing on guarm, progressing on bosses like Nathendra, Ursoc, maybe even Xavius and Cenarius to a point. It's not going to be so useful, maybe even for Renferal. I mean, any sort of boss encounter that largely doesn't have too many ads spawning, and you're really, the general goal of the raid is to kill the boss. This is definitely going to help warlocks out that are either new to picking up Affliction, don't really have much experience in theory and crafting an Affliction, and it'll be a quick, maybe 15, 20-minute guide, and it will show you how to, play Affliction on a boss fight, how to work your dots around playing with the boss, playing with Soul Effigy, and running the spec Contagion. I am running Contagion in this build. I am running, two 111 in this build, so just the only thing I'm running in a different slot is Writhe and Agony. Everything else I'm running in the first slot. And so yeah, so this is guarm, and just a quick cap on the boss if you don't know how it works. We have these three markers at the front, blue, purple, and red, and these are the soak lines. And what that means is the blue side, we're going to be soaking the blue/greenish beam that shoots out of guarm that you'll see, the breath. The purple will be eating the shadow beam, and the red will be eating the red beam. And when we want to get dispelled, we'll just move into the coordinating color to get dispelled, because on Mythic difficulty, every so often these debuffs go up, and when you get a debuff, you have to get dispelled, because if it's not the same color as what you've been soaking, you'll die. So for example, if I'm soaking blue, and I get a purple debuff, and it expires, I will die. So I have to run to the shadow line, get dispelled, and that debuff will jump to the nearest player. Therefore, in the shadow line, there will be shadow players, and it will get dispelled there, and they will get the shadow debuff, and will continue the raid encounter. So that's the general gist of the fight. It's mainly a single target boss race. It's about a 4-minute fight, roughly between 4 minutes and 4 minutes and 15 seconds is between when the boss will kill you with his trample. And so yeah, it's basically a race. You have to do really, really high single target DPS on guarm. I'm assuming, if you're progressing on heroic, you'll probably find it a little bit difficult. Progressing on mythic, you'll find it difficult, just varying on what your guild is sort of doing at this time. But anyways, I just wanted to come at you, show you guys how I like to DPS on guarm, how to use your cooldowns, how to use your reap, where to position, and how to kind of do things. So to start the fight, you notice I have my gateway set up here to make so I have maximum mobility back and forth between my line and the red line, and I also have my port set up on the red marker over there. So this just makes movement a little bit easier for me during the boss fight. So let's get it started. So the pull's happening in 9 seconds. So the way I always start my pull is I precast my Soul Effigy, because I don't really want a UA on the first thing of the pull. It's not really worth it. So I pre-pot, cast my Soul Effigy, target the boss, put my 3 dots on the boss, target my Soul Effigy, and then put my 3 dots on the effigy. Basically, what you're looking for in Lust is to get reap stacks. You see currently I have 1, and I'm not worrying too much about UA. I'm just making sure I'm not capped out on UAs, and refreshing my dots at good times. So here's a point in the video where it's very, very important to note. Okay, I'm standing in my proper line, so I'm not too worried about mechanics. I have 2 stacks of reap souls. Okay, so I have 2 stacks of reap. All my dots have just been refreshed on the boss. I'm sitting at 5 soul shards. I'm gonna want to do the combo, and what the combo is UA, UA, reap, UA, UA, and then try to maintain 100% uptime during that reap. So you're gonna see what's gonna happen here is I'm gonna cast UA, I'm gonna pop my reap and my my berserk, and then I'm gonna cast 4 UAs into that, and then drain life. And you see here, my UAs are starting to expire when my reap soul is starting to expire. So that's what you're kind of looking for. You want to maintain 100% uptime on those UAs during reap soul. I was able to do, a UA, reap, UA combo because I have lust up, but if I wasn't, I wouldn't be able to do that. But you see how effective that is for bursting on the boss. That's how you want to be using your A's throughout the boss. You see I get another 3 reap stacks. I'm not popping them right away. I'm waiting till I get my shards to use on the boss. So I pop them, I have 3 shards, I dump into the boss, and I want to make sure I'm maintaining 100% uptime on that reap. And of course just maintaining, the obvious good pandemic timers on the boss, things like that. Always thinking about, where I should be standing, how many reap stacks I get, things like that. So that was Lust. So I know that was going pretty quick, and I was talking pretty quick there, so let's just stop here, pause for a second, recap what happened. So that was during Lust. What happened was, I got my dots on the boss, I got my dots on the effigy, I waited for reap stacks, I had 2, I did a combo with 4 UAs, I got 3, I did a combo with another 3 UAs, and then I did a UA after that to help the buff to expire, and now I'm near the end of my pot, Bloodlust is down, and the boss is going to be charging soon. So generally what I like to do on this boss is after I do about, 2 uses of Reap Souls during the phase before he charges around the room, I like to save up my Reap stacks for after the charge. So you'll see here, I probably won't pop another Reap here because he goes into the charge. Make sure you're refreshing your dots before he charges because he can charge away from you and that can kind of screw you up. So as he's moving around the room, I'm just refreshing my dots, getting my mana back up, getting ready to go again, and you see I haven't used Reap stacks, so during that charge I generated a surprisingly high amount of Reap stacks actually. Usually you don't get this many, but sometimes it's a little bit RNG dependent. Sometimes you get more at certain times in the fight, sometimes you get less. You just have to be aware, right? So I see that I have a lot of Reap stacks, I have a lot of shards, I've saved those up, so what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to pop my Reap stacks, and I'm also going to pop my second pot. Now you might think this is a little early to be using your second pot. You generally want to be using your second pot as an Affliction Warlock when the boss gets below 20% health, but you don't really want to, you really want to use your pot also when you're Reap stacking, and I thought, I'm not going to get a better time to use this pot because I'm never going to have more uptime on Reap Souls than right now with the amount of stacks that I have, so I may as well just use it right now. This was kind of like an in the middle of the fight thing. This is not what I usually do. Usually I pop my pot with 20% less on the boss, so I generate that extra Doomguard damage as well. But here I just have so many stacks of Reap that I just feel like it's totally necessary for me to do that. So you see, I start stacking my UAs, I pop my Reap, I pop my pot, and I just maintain 100% uptime of Reap Souls and Unstable Affliction during this pot. So this is a very effective pot for me. So you see I'm going to soon start casting another UA, trying to maintain this uptime during this Reap. And now my goal is just keep my pandemic timers up, maintain these UAs during this Reap. You see I have 20 seconds left of Reap. I want to make sure I'm maintaining my UAs during this. I'm also generating Reap stacks during the time that my Reap Soul is active. So, I'm just sitting here trying to maintain that UA uptime best I can. I get my debuff, I run over for it to get dispelled. Obviously I'm not doing it perfectly, but I'm doing it to a decent level to where I'm keeping my shards low during my Reap. I pop my Reap again just to correlate with that pot. So the theme here is try to keep as many Reap stacks up with your second pot as you can. You see I get the flame debuff, I pour it over there, utilizing my globals really well. Ask for a dispel, it gets dispelled off me in the right line, and then I get back to my spot. So all just good play happening, right? Refreshing my dots while I'm moving, things like that. The boss moves, and another phase has ended. Okay, so that was the phase between the tramples. So again, really quick, I want to recap what happened. So the first phase, the lust thing happened. I used 2 things of Reap, the boss ran around the room, and I saved my Reap stacks. After the boss ran around the room, I ended up having an unusually high amount of Reap stacks, so what I did was I popped that with my second pot and did a ton of damage. You can see my DPS is relatively high right now. I'm sitting at 500k before the boss is even in execute phase. So that's really good. Not only that, I was also trying to maintain 100% UA uptime during my Reap. I didn't do it, which is a mistake on my part. I could have done it, but I maintained a really reasonably high uptime on UA during that Reap, and I also had 100% Reap uptime during my pot. You're not always going to have 100% Reap uptime during your pot. It's just not possible, but you can see that it is very possible, to get a high uptime percent, and you really want to work around that. Before I know, say I wasn't going to do this fight, say I was going to save my pot to the 20%, once the boss gets around 40%, I'll think I'm going to start saving all my Reap charges now, and just sit at a relatively high number of soul shards until the point where I am going to pop my second pot, and the boss will die. So, just refreshing my dots, doing all the good things while the boss is running around the room, generating Reap stacks, not worrying too much about UAing right now. I get 2 Reap stacks, so I'm thinking about, going off with a pop here, doing my UA combo, but just maintaining good pandemic timers, keeping my shard count around 3 to 4, all that good stuff. And, just never letting my agony fall. Boss is starting to get low, so I pop my Reap stacks here, I go in with another UA combo, I end up getting lucky here, I get to stay in this color, I don't really get to move, I get a lot of damage off with that 2-stack Reap combo, and you don't need to let your Reaps get really high. You don't need to have 4 or 5 stacks to do an efficient combo. You can have 2 and get 4 UAs off in that 2 Reap and get a lot of benefit out of that, so you don't have to feel like you're waiting a long time. Just do it when you get 2 Reap stacks. The boss is getting really low at this point, so I'm just like, okay, I'm going to try to maximize my DPS when the boss is getting really low. I'm going to be popping my Reap stacks whenever I can, doing as much damage as I can. I have 3 Reap stacks, I have 4 shards, I'm going to go for another combo here. So really just looking for those combos throughout the whole fight with the Reap and the UA thing while maintaining your dots on all the targets. It might be a little much for you to handle And if it's a little much for you to handle the 3 dots, the Reap, and the UAs, you might want to consider running a build like Absolute Corruption, because when you're running a build like Absolute Corruption, you don't have to worry about those 3-dot refresh timers. But again, my Reap stacks are generating up during this trample. Once he sits down and stops moving around, I'm able to pop those again, get all my UAs out on the target, and just generate as much damage as I can. And the boss does die here. We end up doing quite a bit of damage to him on this pull. It's a pretty good pull. I would say my Reap, I got a lot of soul shards, or not soul shards, but soul fragments this pull. I got a higher amount than normal, probably about, not the best RNG I've ever gotten, but pretty reasonable. The boss does go down, and that is the kill. So a lot of things happened in that, that 4-minute segment that I talked through. If you need to go back and replay it, I recommend you do that. Just quick recap, Bloodlust happened, try to utilize our Reap Souls during Bloodlust the best that we could, popping at 2 to 3 stacks throughout the boss. At one point we had 8 stacks of Reap Souls. We popped our second pot with that. We did a lot of damage with that, maintained UA uptime. And then also just, while the boss is running around the room, while you have that downtime, make sure you're refreshing your dots, using your life taps during that time, and really utilizing all your global cooldowns to the best of your ability. So that's a really quick guide on Mythic Guarm for commentary. You can check out the full kill without me talking over it in my channel if you want, and so thanks for watching this guide, guys, and I'll see you later.